Hi, friend.
Hi, friend.
And to the brave hearts listening out there, welcome to Permission to be Human. I'm Andrea.
And I'm Janelle.
Get ready for some real-time relationship woo and wisdom
From the front lines with occasional tantrums and tears.
about how breaking rules, blurring boundaries, and tossing tradition can be catalysts for finding your truth.
Let's debunk the fairy tales we were told as children and create a new map for life.
Yes, Disney can go fuck itself.
If you're seeking permission to choose your own path
Freedom is the new F word, people.
and want to feel less alone along the way,
We got you. Please note, this is our side of the story. Our partners and metamors have their own individual experiences, and we do not speak for them. Hey, Janelle. What are you laughing about? My soft voice?
Your soft voice. Hi, Andrea. I feel like you're so, as we've said before, transparent that playing poker is not your forte. But here we are. We're gonna, and not that we have to, but I feel that our topic this week or today is what our life lessons are from 2023. And I think that they're going to transcend. This episode is going to transcend whatever mood you're in right now.
Your endless positivity is always annoying and uplifting. For sure. It's both at the same time.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Life is a paradox.
It's the paradox that drives us all. That's what Survivor said. Rocky. I've been running to that lately. Oh, that's so good. East versus West, man against man. The victory is yours alone in the burning heart. It's so energizing for a run. Okay, so we're talking about the year 2023, and we're talking about what our words are, because that's the trendy thing. I feel like we have to come up with a new trend. It's so old now. But I don't even remember what my word was in January. Maybe that's a good sign that I'm less organized and less worried about details. What was yours?
My word was devotion.
Devotion to who? Yeah, tell me.
Devotion to my mind, body, and spirit.
Yeah, I like that. And it reminds me of something that our friend Touch told me about how I should become obsessed with myself. So devotion feels like it could have some legs there.
And also, it's a coming home to yourself. There's so many ways that being obsessed with yourself, it can be viewed in a very positive way of I put myself first. Then from that place of fullness, I get to choose others.
I do want to talk about a new word that my friend Leslie gave me. And you know how we talk about being triggered? We probably overuse this word according to my psychotherapist husband, because he's really triggers about this past trauma that it's bringing up for you. And I tend to use it in more of oh, I was annoyed or I was irritated. But the positive opposite of trigger could be thought of as this. The word is glimmer. Glimmers are those moments in your day that make you feel joy, happiness, peace, gratitude. And once you train your brain to be on the lookout for glimmers, then the moments begin to appear more often.
I love it.
So yeah, I like the idea of a glimmer. And if you had any glimmers today? Let's see.
Yes, I have. I went to bed with a UTI and I woke up not in pain. That was a fucking big glimmer. Thanks to you. Another glimmer could be that you brought me a really delicious lemon and dill soup today. Homemade.
You liked that, huh? That was nice. One glimmer for me today is wearing this Santa elf onesie, which really does make me feel so festive and happy. And I feel like this is one of my superpowers, is bringing an air of festivity to environments.
Let's do a little test here. You are festive on the outside. How festive are you on the inside right now with your hello? Can you bring your outside festivity to the inside and then speak from there?
Can I find inner festivity? Is this what you're asking? Well, I think I've already done it by laughing on this episode within 5 minutes. So I already got there.
Well done.
All right. So we have, I believe, 14 lessons, but who's counting, that we learned in 2023, both the magic and the mundane. So we'll start with the magic. This is something we've both talked about, and
on many episodes.
Yes, on many episodes. The lesson is it's essential to let go of form. So what's that mean to you, Janelle?
Letting go of form is recognizing that something that you've been dreaming of, longing, craving, may actually be present in your life right now, but just doesn't look like what you thought it was going to look like.
Beautiful. That is a great little snippet right there. Now, where has it showed up for you the most? What example can you give us?
I'm going to give the partnership one, which I love, which is that in getting divorced this year, my definition of what partnership looks like has expanded to include many more people who can support me in different moments, in different ways. I think of you as one of my life partners. I spend more time with you and talking to you than anyone else. And there's so much joy and fulfillment, as well as like real life. Hey, you're bringing me lunch, or, picking me up at the doctor's. But like, we're sharing life, even though you're married with a kid. Mm-hmm. Your daughter has come here. We've gone to events together. So we're sharing life. We're sharing life together. To me, that's worth elevating your status, like by calling you out as one of my partners versus being like, oh yeah, she's like my best friend, which could be true. But by bringing the word partnership to it, to me, there's like a weight to it. Mm-hmm. There's a depth to our relationship that I deeply appreciate that doesn't look like we're not married. And yet I still think of you as a partner.
Yeah, thank you. I totally feel that and receive it. I think you're absolutely right. It's a different definition. So yeah, the way that letting go of form has shown up for me is that things don't have to look the way that I thought they were going to. And that is true in parenthood. It's true with marriage. It's true with success. It's true with love. It's true with the holidays. And what I start doing when things don't look like I think they should is I start judging. I'm just like, oh, that's not right. Mm-hmm. That's not the right way for love to look. That's not the right way for a grandparent to act. That's not the right way for a daughter to be. That's not a right way for the husband to be. There is no right and wrong, especially if there's love, kindness, and consent. So I'm trying to accept the way love shows up.
Beautiful.
And it's a practice, and it's an ongoing practice. It's not like I'm done.
And I think that is a lesson right there too, right? Is that whenever we like, oh, I figured something out, it's very easy to forget what we figured out. And then we have to remember again. On this personal growth path, it's often a practice what we're doing.
Yeah. So next one is stop looking out and start looking in. Now, we've both been doing this for a long time, becoming introspective on a path to personal growth. However, when we started doing social media and getting on Instagram more, I noticed this pressure building about getting on, doing a reel, showing up, posting, taking a good picture. And I didn't like it. It felt icky. And I think for me, this is the epitome of social media is you're showing up and you're looking online at what different people are doing. And so you're looking outside instead of looking inside. So we decided as a podcast, as hosts, as people who love to express, that we will only post on social media at this point when we feel it authentically inside. Mm-hmm. When we want to express, when we want to post, when we have a message to share, when we want to impact, when we want to spread love.
And the challenge that we've also come across in that is, if we're in a moment that we're enjoying life, then we don't actually want to stop to record it because we don't want it to take us out of presence. There's a conflict here. We're still navigating this.
Right now, it's just like, no, look inside first. Mm-hmm. Is this the moment to do it? Do I want to do this right now? Rather than looking out inside and saying, I should. Oh, they're doing that. I need to do it. And this is the endless issue with scrolling too, is it's not an inside look. It's an outside look.
Yeah, beautiful. Being in the flow of the magic and miracles, that there are still class 5 rapids.
It's hard, but I get what you're saying.
I used to think that if I was like surrendered to spirit, then everything was going to be easeful and I was going to be fine and there wasn't going to be fear. And then my lesson was that actually there's fear in being surrendered to the divine and there's fear in not being surrendered to the divine. So it's a matter of which fear am I going to choose. My best examples of this was, as I've said before, like I'm living in the goddess temple. The expenses of the goddess temple are very high. I could have lived in a smaller house that I have, which is a much smaller mortgage payment. And I was like, oh, but there's actually, as much as there's fear, like, oh my gosh, am I going to be able to afford the goddess temple? There was also a different fear in choosing to move into that smaller house, because I was like, well, then what am I doing with my life in this smaller house? Like the goddess temple seemed to have like a greater potential and vision and uplifting and up-leveling of me. And that was still scary. And the smaller house, while more affordable, felt like dampening or like playing small. And I was like, okay, Both are scary places. I'm going to choose the fear where I feel the divine is leading me.
That is beautifully put. And that really is what so many people I hear are facing constantly. My clients are like, no, this is a safe route. I get the good job and I feel flat and I don't like my job and I come home uninspired. And this is the perfect segue into my next lesson, which I'm still figuring out, is how do I discern the voice, what you call spirit, what I'm calling inner witch, from rational mind or evil twin? Like my evil twin is like, no, you better hurry. You better get on it. You better save money. You better start being productive. And that all has these like diminishing feelings of satisfaction. Like I get one thing done and then I just move on to the next thing, right? And I'm feeling very productive, but not alive, not fulfilled. And now I'm able to tease out those differences. But it's really hard sometimes to discern those two voices, especially when I'm not living a life alone. I have people depending on me.
Yes. I remember though, Martha Beck saying this on We Can Do Hard Things episode, which was go in the direction of the decision that feels warm in your body. Like figuring out how to discern between your inner witch and your evil twin, and trusting your inner witch is a deep practice of surrender and trusting uncertainty, trusting that your mind cannot figure out how it's going to happen.
Knowing the why, but not the how sometimes. Yes, for sure.
Another lesson for me is that I am home in myself. In that way, I don't need a lot of objects, of material things. The Goddess Temple is beautiful and is filled with beautiful art and furniture. When I'm traveling, which I've been doing a lot lately because I'm working on the East Coast, I don't actually miss the Goddess Temple. I don't miss being home because I'm like, oh, I'm home. I'm home wherever I am. And I get to be really excited when I come back to the Goddess Temple. But then I'm excited when I'm leaving again to go on my next adventure. At Burning Man this year, when I carried my goddess bag with me and offered goddess sessions to people, it was like I felt like I had everything I needed in that moment.
Yeah, I love that. It's crazy. Like, I don't know how you do it because I definitely crave my house, need the coziness. Like, it's like a cradle, like it's holding me. I guess it begs the question or makes me wonder, I'm like, is that something to aspire to be home in yourself and not need the house? Or is it okay for me to need the house and to want to stay in the house and to miss my house?
I would definitely not say that how I do it is how anyone else should do it. This is like the lesson for me. Can you feel comfortable in yourself? And if being comfortable in yourself also includes being comfortable in your home, like literally, and like all the things that you have around you, then beautiful. Like there's an intention there.
So I also learned that the most triggering people in my life are also sometimes the ones with the most personal growth to offer. And this is so fucking annoying. I hate it. It causes me so much suffering and so grateful for these people. I'm just going to go ahead and not name names.
I can relate that. Yeah, it's often people like where the trigger is, there is growth.
No doubt about it. Where discomfort is, there is growth. I'm so tired of telling myself that. All right, what's next for you?
Investing in my radiance is not a luxury. It is a necessity. So the things that I'm investing in are my sleep, my food, my massages, and my clothing. In clothing is an obvious one to wonder, like, well, do I just want that amazing coat? Or does my soul need that amazing coat?
Sounds like a satirical commercial.
I wish I could really like pinpoint to someone like how I know the difference, but there's a feeling of integrity in me. I'm not buying something spontaneously per se. Like there's a reflection, like or a contemplation of the question, do I need this? Like I'm asking myself that as I'm like buying it or as I'm trying it on. And then the really is, how do I feel
when you try it on?
When I try it on, like what's happening? If I look at myself, do I automatically feel brighter? Do I see my own radiance come through? And if that's the case, then I feel like it's spirit.
I think that's a good way to think about it. And it really reminds me of Marie Kondo's what to get rid of in your closet, right? It's like you hold up this object, try it on. Does it bring me joy or not? So I think that's very related. And I will put the caveat or the disclaimer in here that you've never been a shopping as a pastime sort of person. And so you don't have that to navigate, whereas I definitely do. And some of our listeners may as well. I have significantly shifted in this way. Like I just don't think of shopping as nearly as much of a pastime, but it's sort of like an old addiction for me that I have to be wary of. And so it's a little harder for me to tell when I'm supposed to buy something.
I don't know. Is clothing one of the expressions of your radiance?
It is for sure. Yes. And we'll get it more into that in the next episode when we talk more about investing in our radiance. But I think I hear you. And I think that's a great test. Trying it on and seeing if you feel lifted and thinking about, am I buying this for me to look at or am I buying it for someone else to look at? Should we get into that?
I think it relates because for me, I have gotten the feedback that when I walk into a room, that my clothing is as much a part of my presence that helps set the tone of the energy in the room. So how I feel in it when I look at myself is the main threshold, but I will say that it's amazing how like in walking down the street, how many people give me compliments, but I'm not taking it as like, oh, I look so great in this. There's an energetic that they're feeling. And that's actually what it feels like to me that they're complimenting.
Another one of my lessons was it's okay to love fiercely. It's okay to love with intensity. It's okay to love fast and hard because this is what I do, as long as I know the way back to myself. And that's all I have to say about that.
Do you have ways of figuring out your ways back to yourself?
Good question. Nope. I don't think I do. I can't name them right now. I just know that I can't get lost in that intense love where I'm paying too much attention to the love and the other instead of myself. However, if it's okay to love fiercely and love with intensity, I guess that includes me too. I just have to be a little bit careful about loving others that way. It's okay to do it. It's okay to spread it, but it can be almost like a high or an addiction. And that takes me away from myself and my own stability.
What I think I hear you saying is if you can love hard and intensely with someone else while maintaining a connection to the intensely loving of yourself, that's when it's a healthy balance.
Mic drop. Yep. Great description. Thank you. Okay, tell me about easeful.
This could be one of my words. Could be a word for 2024.
It's a beautiful thing and it needs dissected.
So the word, everyone, is easeful. What I have found is if my path is easeful, then I believe it's supported by the divine, even if it doesn't look anything like I expected. If I'm in ease with timing, with energy, decision-making, it's like, oh, okay. I had an example recently where I had to pay a lot more money for the garage than I thought. And I was like, oh, wow, I actually happen to have this money available. And so the money had just come in literally the day before. And then I was like, okay, it's going out again. I didn't find myself constricting around it. In that particular instance, like that was shocking to me that I was able to be in ease around that much money, around an unexpected bill essentially that had come in. And I was like, okay, that's just what's happening. And I could have, what I know is that if I'm constricting, and there's a part of me that's in fear and then I'm reacting from the fear. But I definitely had other plans for that money. I was not expecting it to go in the direction that it did. And I was like, but oh, okay, that's what's happening now.
And I think when you first started using the word ease or easeful, I was associating it with laziness or easy, like not going toward the hard thing. And that's not it.
Yes. Don't confuse easeful and easy. You could still be in action. Like you could still be doing something. Oftentimes I can choose a harder path for something, but there's actually a lot of grace in choosing the more easeful path. And I had to learn that lesson. There can be pride in getting through something that's really hard, but not for the sake of it being hard. If you don't have a choice and there's only one path and it's a hard path, okay, you have to get through it. But if you have a choice between a hard path and an easeful path, I invite you to reflect on the easeful one.
And this comes into my life in very small ways. I just want to mention that, you talked about the money, having the money, needing the money, and that is true. And now, where I used to get anxious when things weren't going to work out a certain way. And my husband's like, oh, I'm going to be late because this happened. I'm like, I need you to come home because of it. I'm like all caught up in my anxiety. And I'm like, okay, no, we have to change the time. I'm going to tell them we're going to change the time. Are they going to be pissed at me about this? No, of course they're not. So I've caught myself texting my husband and saying like, that's fine. Whatever is most easeful. I'll change the time. But I had a hard time doing that for ages because I got an idea in my mind of what it was supposed to look like. I refused to release my particular, very detailed expectation of the evening. And then when it didn't, I was always disappointed. But I was always disappointed in some way because nothing works out exactly like you think it's going to, whether it's a piano recital or a road trip or whatever. So this ease is really helpful. So thank you, friend.
You're so welcome.
Okay, so I've got another one. So I've learned where the individual and the collective meet. A lot of people walk past my house and walk their dog, and I'm often on the porch. And I've experienced a morning because people used to look at the porch and nod or say hello. People don't do that anymore because they have earpods in. Almost everybody. Very rare. 10% of people don't have them in. And I do too. Sometimes I don't walk, but when I'm running, I have them in. I also, though, am constantly looking at strangers because that's what I love to do and connect with people. So to find a place where the individual and the collective meet seems really important because they are both important. I want to have introspection time where it's just me. And I also want to be part of a bigger community, whether that's on my street or at my daughter's school or with my friends. And two examples of where the individual and the collective meet are my choir and the silent disco I attended. So in the choir, I am singing just me. I can hear myself sing, but together we are creating a different sound, right? So there's two things going on. I'm finding fulfillment and joy just from expressing, which is pretty individual, and everyone gets a different result from that. And then I'm also experiencing the collective force and energy of 20 people singing together. That combination is just beautiful to me. This is what a silent disco offers as well as, you're in your head with the music, but you also have these people around you dancing, and that's its own magic as well.
Yeah, I love that description. I also notice how often, like I'm on the subway a lot these days. I have practiced this of being on like a subway and not being on my phone, not having on earpods, and looking around to see if any one person will actually make eye contact with me for the entire like ride that I'm on that train.
Yeah. And how often?
It's very rare. It's so rare that someone actually looks up and makes eye contact. And
when you make eye contact, then what happens?
A smile. Yeah, because it's not like we're going over and talking. It's not that kind of interaction.
I know you're not going to talk, but I was comparing like the smile versus the look away.
Oh, I see. I guess both could happen. In a way, it's honestly so rare that the eye contact is happening that I don't have like enough data to say what happens.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Okay, I have another one. This is like one of my big mantras for the year of lessons learned, which is increasing my capacity for discomfort increases my capacity for love. I've been doing this a lot this year, and it's recognizing the more comfortable I can be when my body is uncomfortable or my emotions are uncomfortable, then I have a greater capacity to stay centered and grounded with whoever I'm interacting with. And from that grounded, centered place, I'm expressing through love. So here's one way I tested it, or I worked on it. Burning Man, there was an art project that I climbed. It was like, I don't know, like a 3.5 or 4 story art structure that you could climb on the outside like a ladder up to the top when you're overlooking the entire playa. But then it would shake a little bit when you're up there. And I was like, like a little bit nervous. I could like feel the discomfort in my system because I also knew I had to go down. But I was like, okay, I'm increasing my capacity for love. I'm increasing my capacity for love. As I was at the top of that, feeling the rattling in my system of like a little bit of fear. In cold plunges, where like, oh, if I jump into a cold plunge and my body's super uncomfortable, then I'm getting used to that discomfort so that in interacting with someone else, I'm not going to react as much. 3 of the classes that I'm in right now, Heal Collective Trauma, which is Embody Anti-Racism workshop that I'm in, my Pro-Dom BDSM course, like both of these are actually really helping me increase my capacity for discomfort. Like the outcome is that like, even with like my former partner, like if he says something and I'm like, oh, I'm uncomfortable, I don't have to react. By not reacting, by not actually saying anything, I'm thus showing love. Because my reaction could be like, rawr, or one of fear or constriction or annoyance or anger. But instead, I'm like, oh, I'm uncomfortable.
yeah, I feel like it's an achievement for me if I don't respond to someone in my family who is complaining about something or something that I definitely want to be like back, right? Just no response, like nothing necessary.
Even if like you're sensing your own response, totally. You're getting activated, yep. And you're like, okay, I'm just not going to say anything.
So a funny metaphor of this that I just realized is that I've been, having trouble sleeping for, 5 years or something. And I have found different things that have worked for various time periods. But lately I've been using a vape with weed in it, with marijuana. And so I'll take that before I go to bed. And I used to take it and then I would feel this little tickle in my throat and then I would cough. And then of course I would keep coughing or at least have like 10 to 20 seconds of coughing. But I just noticed how I can now take it in and I feel the urge to cough, but I don't have to cough. So I don't cough. And so then I don't cough at all. And it really is like noticing the urge instead of immediately acting on it.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, that really is kind of the same thing. Well, the next one is launching a podcast, which is a lesson for both of us. And I think the lesson is, it's that song, which I looked it up. It's so old. I can remember who sings it. It takes two to make a thing go right. It takes two to make it out of sight, right? Like we really need both of us to do this. Is basically Janelle is like, her phrase is, everything will work out. We have plenty of time. She is at one end of the time spectrum. She's a problem solver. She thinks on her feet. She's a tech maven. She's a retreat goer. She's a reassurance provider. She is an ease, grace, compassion. She's resourceful. And she has the house and the equipment.
And Andrea is, oh my God, we're going to run out of time. We never going to get everything done that we need to get done. And yet she is the content writer and the organizer, the meaning maker, the social media expresser, dot connector, story writer. She provides the humor as well as the intensity. She does the editing and the writing and has the Mac for GarageBand. Because we're in ease. This is a passion project that we both get to really enjoy. Because yes, there's of course tasks that we have to do that would be like nicer not to have to do. But nonetheless, the tasks that we're doing are ones that are very much within what we like to do.
Our zones of genius.
Yes, exactly.
So here's a quick list of mundane lessons from the year.
Yeah, because not everything, there's lots of magic, but not everything has to be deep. What was one of yours?
Yeah, so mashed potatoes are way better when made with sour cream and cream cheese. Basically, twice baked potatoes are always what I'm going to make now. Why would I make regular mashed potatoes when I can make those?
Wait, now I'm confused. Did you never have a twice baked potato before this year?
Yeah, I always had one, but I never made one because I don't really cook. Like cooking's not my thing. And so, I just made it. It was so easy. So that's it.
Well, one of mine is that clothespins make cheap and effective chip clips. And I learned that from my friend Andrea over here,
who buys them at the dollar store. You can get like 50 of them for $1. Let's see. I learned that my name means courage in Greek. And that was a big aha moment for me. I have to credit Michael Scott Overholt with that one. He was a new friend I made in 2023. So grateful for him.
Cardamom is an undervalued spice. I've started putting it in my cacao every morning. I love it. It's just so yummy.
Yeah. That's awesome. I remember you asking me to bring some one day. My house is power protected by the insulators. I can't believe I did not realize this for so many years. By these little turquoise antique insulators that used to sit on the top of telephone poles.
Which are made out of glass. So they're turquoise glass.
They're like this strange shape, right? Some of you may know what they are, but they were used a couple hundred years ago on top of telephone poles. And they really are power protectors. And so I'm thinking of them now as a way to protect my own power. And I'm so glad I have them in my house.
One of my big things is sleep hygiene. Every night now, I go to bed with my eye mask, earplugs, and mouth tape. Doesn't matter where I am, in my house or not, if it's quiet or not, I'm always protecting my sleep.
That mouth tape thing still really gets me. Like, I love it. The music can be on. And I can manage to not dance for several hours at a time. It's probably the first time I've ever accomplished this feat.
Now, but why did you accomplish this feat?
I only did it because I was chaperoning my daughter's dance. And I didn't ask her permission. I just told her that I was chaperoning her dance. And she was like, okay, but no dancing. And I was like, oh my gosh, like it is really hard for me not to move a little bit when there is music on.
And was it worth it to chaperone?
It was totally worth it. And it was incredibly hard. I would just catch myself starting to move and then would stop. And then my daughter would look over at me and be like, are you dancing? I'm like, no, definitely not. Right. So yeah, I could do it though. I did it.
One of my big ahas is the easiest way to make a house warmer is to turn the heat up. I really struggled last year with the Goddess Temple and how cold it was, and didn't think about turning it up way higher than I thought was acceptable, because I grew up in a house where my dad actually talked about this with my dad when I was home last week. Like, Dad, he's like, yeah, we would keep the house at like 54 in the upstairs of the house in the wintertime. No, 54 in the upstairs. It was freezing, which is why I slept in like the flannel nightgowns and all these quilts. Yes. And so I asked my dad, like, Dad, why did you do that? He's like, I had read someplace that sleeping in the cold was good for you.
I mean, sleeping, that's true. I do like to sleep with it cold. It's good. This is very much determined by like how you grow up.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I have determined that playing New York Times word games is actually quite satisfying. And even though I still judge myself for wasting time doing it, I really enjoy it. And I never would have thought I would spend any time doing that.
Yeah. 2023 taught you that. I learned that I prefer glitter to cat hair all over my house.
If it's going to be messy, it might as well be sparkly.
Yes. Yes. Well, if it's going to be, yeah. I really have such a low tolerance for cat hair, but somehow my tolerance for glitter is quite high.
Okay. You have joy.
Yeah, I have joy. I do have joy. I figured out that I lead people to joy. And one of the ways I do it is I give out these mini bottles of joy.
Love it. Yeah. All right. There's our lessons for 2023. I think it's important to reflect on the past before or instead of thinking too hard about the future. This is what last year was like. Don't forget all the joy, all the lessons, just how far you've come in 2023.
Yeah, brave hearts. We're proud of you. Whatever it is, whatever your year looked like, we're proud of you because you survived it.
We are with you and we love you. Happy New Year.
Do you need permission to be human? You got it. Listen, subscribe, and review on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Learn more about us at permissiontobehuman.live.